what was your initial game plan coming into college?
Well, honestly, my game plan was the fact that, I had an opportunity to be a vital walk-on, ended up being a student manager for 4 years. But during those 4 years as student manager for the football team, it opened up my eyes to so many different avenues within sport. For instance, I did 6 internships while I was an undergrad. I worked in sport information, I worked in ticketing, I worked in compliance, I worked in academics, which was my passion. I worked in event management. My senior year, I did the 1996 opening and closing ceremonies of the Olympics, which was a great experience. Driving in Atlanta traffic, working 40, 50 hours for free, lining up wires, the whole deal, event management. But it gave me an appreciation and understanding of what a major sport event not only takes and what it is offered, but to understand that there's so much out there in sports. So my journey was one that I didn't know what I was getting into. But along the way, I figured it out.
Exactly.
And I knew for one thing and one common thing only is that I needed to go above and beyond. I needed to have a positive attitude. I had to have a different way of marketing myself in a way that people would notice. And not to say, hey, look what I'm doing, but more or less that I'm a team player. That I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and see the trash, pick it up, have a positive attitude, compliment, just be a team player. And that's why I try to tell our students, especially in this industry, you have to have those skill sets, no matter what industry or sport you're planning on going into.
Okay, so I heard you say you did 6 different internships, and then you said that you found that academics was your passion. How did you know that academics in the sport realm was your passion, was your sector?
When I was growing up, sport was a huge influence in my life in terms of life skills, discipline, dealing with conflict, understanding that there's an end to a means. Let's be honest, sport's going to end at some level. And even if you're the most elite athlete in the world, your career's going to end.
Exactly.
And what are you using?
Tom Brady.
Well, true. But I guarantee you, when Tom's going to retire here in the next couple of years, he's going to have opportunities because I guarantee he looked at that where I tell students all the time, and I'm sure Tom Brady did the same thing. Exactly. Team 12. Don't let sport use you. Use sport and get the most of your opportunity. And that's what I loved about academics was that I said a lot of these student athletes that I worked with were coming from first-generation college students. They came from low socioeconomic, and if it wasn't for their athletic ability, they wouldn't have the opportunity to get into higher education, much less getting fully funded. So I wanted to make a small impact and difference in those lives. To say, hey, look, if you go to the NFL, if you go to the NBA, great. But at the end of the day, you got to look at it. Don't let the system use you. Get that degree. Get your master's degree. Because when that career ends, you're going to have to fall back on something. And by you getting a degree, it's not only going to open up opportunities for your family, but for generations to come.
Exactly. And it's like you said, it's creating generational knowledge and generational mindsets. Generational approaches on how to take advantage of the college experience. And speaking of the college experience, you've been in academics for well over a decade now. How do you think the college experience has changed from students from when you started to what it is now?
Well, just from a university perspective, working in higher education research is a huge part of being in academia as far as the institution itself. But I realized that more so than anything, what we were maybe not doing the best job of, particularly in sport, was providing opportunities for students to get the practical knowledge base along with that curriculum, along with that degree in academia, to be able to make themselves the most marketable, and more importantly, more knowledgeable, so they can be assets to organizations versus organizations being assets to our students. Because I tell our students at the end of the day, it's not what companies can do for them, but what our students can do for them. And how do you do that? By getting internships, getting those opportunities, just like here in Miami, to be able to work the second largest sport event in our country behind the Super Bowl, for them to do that right here for the next 4 or 5 days. It's priceless, and it's going to help them be able to have those opportunities in the future.
Exactly, and to your point, practical experience is so huge and so important, and I think, like I said, that's why I love what you do for Florida State and what you've done for me, because with your help, you were able to give me practical experiences, being able to go to Madison Square Garden, being able to work for IMG Learfield. And these are all positions where, as you know, in sport, it's not like 10 people are getting the job. It's one person.
That's right. And that's why, for you, Charles, particularly, by having that experience at IMG Learfield, while you're working on your degree, while you went to MSG to finish that master's degree and have that experience, but also allows you to understand some of the politics that you're going to be entering, some of the challenge with personnel, some of the things that you may, from a corporate perspective, that you can handle of what you've learned in the classroom to be able to be better prepared in what you're going to be doing in the future. And that, to me, is an education all by itself. And that's why I think it's very, very important why our program and all our faculty take truly advantage of that internship experience. Because if not, we're not better preparing them to be able to get that first full-time job.
Exactly, exactly. And I think it also goes to your point, you know, in one of the classes that you teach is when you go to these experiences, being aware of what you're saying. You know, being mindful and being aware of what you're saying about politics or navigation, or being present in the moment and taking advantage of every moment that you have in that opportunity. So in progressing with that thought, have you noticed a change in mindset or characteristics between the college student back then to the college student now?
Oh, 100%. You know, what's interesting, and I'm not saying that our generation, and I say back then, mine, the work ethic was better, but this generation is a little bit more challenging to be able to get them a better understanding of what it's going to take to get in. And I say that because of the technology.
Exactly.
You know, from a social media perspective, to be able to have interpersonal communication, to be able to understand that it's not about me, and the entitlement of what I get out of it. More importantly, having that selfless ability to want to give back. And in our industry, we're customer service, right? We're business first, and our students have to understand that. Whether you're a coach, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in facilities event management, whether you're in intercollegiate athletics, professional athletics, they have to have that. And so we have to train them. We have to teach them. And I'll be honest with you, if they want a letter of recommendation from me, they want me to pick up a call to be able to get them an internship, they better do their part. And I tell them right off. And what are you doing to show me that? Because you only have a small window to make an impact. And I'm not saying I can help you, but I certainly will go above and beyond to help you if you show me this is what you're willing to do, and that you show those skill sets, that you know how to communicate effectively. You know you're willing to go above and beyond. You're willing to write a thank you note. You're willing to be appreciative and passionate about this opportunity that we get, and it's going to pay off. And ultimately, I think that's what's really helped our program along the last several years.
And to your point, I would second your notion of the fact that if, as us as students, if we realize that all we have to do is put the intentionality out there of what we want to do and why we want to do it, you'll be willing to help.
100%. And to me, that's what I get the joy in the job. When I see our students working here and getting up, you know, early in the morning to be here to set up for 12 or 13-hour days with a smile and understanding what this event is, they can have say, I made a small impact, I made a small difference putting this huge event that the people across the country are going to watch. Oh, that's it. It's a lifetime. That's what makes sports so memorable. It's not about just watching your team win the game. It's about the overall experience. And that's what sport has lost because of COVID, because we don't have these memories. And granted, watching television, being this convenient, there's nothing better to be in that live moment of a sporting event.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like you said, that's the X factor.
That's it.
That's what makes it so special. So to go back to what you're saying about the characteristics, could you name me like 2 or 3 of the key characteristics or skill sets that a college student should have or develop while they're in college, no matter what major that they're in?
Absolutely. I think the first one is just likability. Be able to have a presence of understanding your role at all levels, meaning that, you know what, if I'm an intern, understand your role. What is that? Well, my role is to help in any way I can, and to be open and learn and be a sponge, right? I think open to criticism, open to how do I get better? You know, for me, the best teachers and the best bosses I had were people that were actually willing to, you know, not necessarily blame me for a mistake or call me out, no, but just to say, hey, you know, Jason, I want you to do this, because this is a better way of doing it. I learn more from my faults or from my lack of versus saying, oh, I get defensive. A lot of our generation is defensive when you call them out. It's not about calling them out. It's helping you to get better, because ultimately that shows to me that you care. I think that's one. I think the other one is just understand that if this is what you want to do, well then show me. And how do you show me? And you always have the theme, I want to be the first one in, the last one out. Yeah, that's part of it. But also, too, have a positive attitude. We're working in sport.
Exactly.
Have a smile. Exactly. We're not digging ditches. We're doing something we're miserable. You know, when that alarm goes off. We're working in sport entertainment. Show it. Have that personality. Have that attitude that, you know what, I love what I do, and show it from your face. But you know, when I see students moping or they're just like, oh, you know, then to me that shows that this is not for them, right?
Exactly.
And I don't care what area of sport it is, but to show that you have the ability to want to be there, first off. Number 2, show an understanding that what your role is as you climb the ladder. And the last thing is really, and I think this is just something that I think will just take time, is that when you find your passion in sport, be humble. Be understanding that it's not about your next step. It's not about your next move. Take it in. Enjoy that position. Because let me tell our students all the time is that the grass isn't greener on the other side.
Exactly.
Enjoy, if you find that, maintain that.
Exactly. And I appreciate you've given perspective, to myself and people watching and listening about, those key skill sets, because I think, like you said, they're invaluable and they translate any industry, any profession, and it could be personal or interpersonal relationships, So we're gonna take a step back, and then I want to give you a hypothetical situation, right? So let's say that you're a high school guidance counselor and you're speaking with a student that is looking to go to college, and they're in a tough economic situation in terms of their parents can't afford to pay for their college. They don't have that opportunity. That was my situation. I had my parents, I just take out student loans. So what would you tell someone like me who, doesn't have a real path on how to get to college? What experiences or what should they be doing to put themselves in a position to not only go to college, but be in a position to get scholarship money?
The biggest thing I tell our students all the time, even when they're in college and looking for it, from a socioeconomic perspective, it's what are you doing? Make sure that you apply for everything that's out there as far as funding, scholarship, and it's all about access and education and exposure. One of the things I tell our students is that, just because you apply and you're offered a position doesn't mean you need to take it. And just like with anything else that's offered in terms of financial aid, right? In terms of, here I am, I got a student manager scholarship. Who would have thought that as a student manager for football that they were going to pay my room, board, and books?
How did you get that?
Well, first of all, it's thinking outside the box. I show up there, I see these people on the side, I say, well, what are you doing? I ask questions. I think questions, asking, so I do this, well, do you get paid for it? Well, no, we get a meal plan and we get room and board. I said, what? I said, how many hours you work? Well, it's a long days, but you get exposure, you get to travel with the team. I said, what? And you get Nike gear and you get rings? I said, what? So it's asking questions.
Turn questions into currency.
That's it. Beautiful statement. And that's what it is. And what I noticed about our generation of students, they don't want to ask that question. They feel like they're bothering someone, or they feel like, that I don't want to be intrusive. Granted, there's a professional way to do it, but that, more than anything, by you asking questions shows me that you care and that you have an ability to want to do it. And I think our students, and particularly in high school, get involved. Get involved with your high school manager. If you're not in the football team, if you want to work in sport, talk to the coach, talk to the athletic director, talk to people around the community, how you can get involved. Because the more you can get involved, the more knowledge and education you're going to get access to that ultimately will carry you through to that next step in college.
Okay, and then to your point, right? Talking about resources, I'm putting you in the spot. Do you offer your name, of places that high school students should go, like websites wise, that they can go for grants and scholarships? Because for me, I kind of knew that, but I had no idea where to search or how to search.
Well, the first thing is, depending on where you live, here we live in Tallahassee. We have TCC, we have Florida A&M University, we have Florida State University.
Exactly.
Listen, I'm in business, I understand it. But what I would tell high school students, you've got universities, you got Miami-Dade here, you got UM, go by there.
Go there.
Go there. Like I tell people, it's all informational interviews. Go there, knock on the door, ask questions, because they're going to give you, if they see that you're taking the effort to park here, come up to my office, and you're just looking for opportunities to fund my education, resources, they're going to go out of the way. Obviously, internet is great, but some of our students don't have access to internet.
Exactly.
Go to the library. Go find out ways to be able to do that. It may be a little more hassle, maybe we're taking more time, but I can assure you it'll pay off over and over and over again. It's just feeling the confidence just to ask and go there. Like you're part of us. You have the resources, just use them. I can tell students all the time, you have phenomenal resources here at Florida State University. I'm going to make you use them through the Career Center. I'm going to make you use them throughout the campus to make sure that you understand when you leave here, you're making an impact, not just for yourself, but for opportunities that you'll have in the future.
And I'm so glad you said the point of just going there. Just going there and putting yourself out there. And making yourself put a name to the face. Because a lot of times, like you said, a lot of people, you're voiceless. You're a faceless voice.
That's exactly right.
We hear you, but we don't see you. So we can't make that connection, like you said. That might be the or actually, it is the separation between who gets the scholarship money and who doesn't.
Well, it's like you put yourself in a box. You're supposed to stay here. You're supposed to. You can't go outside. No, you can't go outside the box. You have a right to. Everybody has a right to. Everybody has the ability to get the same information, the same access, and it's just a matter of giving those students and those people that are looking for that the ability to do such, and and maybe where we have to drive them over there and get that confidence there, because some students, I get it, they're shy, they don't feel it, that's not them, I'll send an email. Well, listen, you can only do so much with an email. Go there, show it, because that just shows another way that you care and that you really want that information.
Exactly. And then to your point, let's say you're in college now. Can you name me, maybe using Florida State as an example, of what are some resources on campus that you think students should be aware of or they don't take advantage of enough?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost is, go to the athletic department. There's so many different jobs for tutoring positions that people don't even think of. I told you about student manager positions, athletic training positions. Even I would go to the undergraduate studies office for each of their campuses to see what type of jobs are available on campus, work study opportunities if you qualify through FAFSA. Go to the graduate offices to see what scholarships and jobs that are offered through GA positions. Go to the department heads of the college or the program that you're in to ask what type of assistantships and resources you can offer. So I think ultimately, having the ability to just go out there and ask for them, because it's right there in Florida State. It's just a matter of figuring it out. Now, to be honest, they may say, well, look, we're full, or we don't have as many positions, but we'll keep you in mind. You have a resume, but that's just keep it at it. Because listen, in our professional
Following up, that's very, very key. And to your point, I got a position with a sports agent off of following up.
Yep.
Literally, and it wasn't even like a day later, it was like 2 weeks later. I was persistent with following up, and then I got the second interview, and then the rest is history.
Well, you know what I tell our students? You have to be professionally persistent. And this is what the key is.
Exactly.
And that means not to wear them out, not to drive them insane, but pick the key points of when to reach out to those people. And I tell students, in spring break or when you have some time off, if you're in a city, plan meetings, plan informational meetings during your time off from school to show the executives, the people that you're looking for, not for jobs, but just talk to me about your career. Just tell me how you got to where you got. What is some advice, Charles, that you can offer me to be able to get my first full-time internship in the industry? And those are things that are going to help separate you at a time that, people may be, hey, spring break, I'm all about socializing, I'm all about having a good time. But again, as I mentioned before, you only have such a short window to make a tremendous impact to market your skills and who you are to be able to get that first-time job.
Exactly. I think it's to your point of, having situational awareness, I think is key as a college student too, because I think in your situation, right, for your example, it goes to show that, if you are looking for a way in, then maybe you should, this spring break, for this year, you should take it off. And then go above and beyond and separate yourself. Now, if you're in a situation where you've had your experiences, like the law students, right? When they're doing their third year of law school, they already have a job secured. Now that spring break, you can have some fun.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think it goes to your point about situational awareness, and in your situation, being willing to go above and beyond, because it will pay back tenfold.
Absolutely. And I say this all the time. Listen, the ability to have socialization, to go out, play video games, go to the beaches, is always going to be there. But what's not going to be there is the ability to gain that experience where students are doing that. And that's just another option, another opportunity for you to be able to get up on them, to realize this is what's going to make an impact. And ultimately, like I said, if you work hard, you play hard. But you don't get to play until you have all your things and all your ducks in a row, you cross your T's, you dot it, and then you enjoy yourself. But not until then.
Exactly, to your point. And like you said, this is just awesome, having a chance to be here during college football, national championship weekend, people taking pictures and all the things like that. And like I said, Florida State University is the only university I know of that is a part of the full experience, and what makes this experience and what makes you so special, and makes Florida State and the department so special. So I appreciate, once again, this experience and being present in this moment. So another question for you, right? So let's say you're a freshman and you're looking to have a productive freshman year to set up sophomore through senior year. What would you do as a freshman? Like, what are some activities you would do or steps you would take, knowing the knowledge that you have, to set up a productive sophomore to senior year?
Well, first and foremost, as a freshman, to be able to have an internship right off the get-go is so critical. I tell our students to get involved in our student association called the Sport Management Student Association, where they get exposed to different professionals within the industry. They get to go on potential professional developing networking trips to get them exposed to that. The other thing is go ahead and go by the athletic department. Go by and see what type of opportunities they have in the different areas with marketing, whether it be sport information, whether it be as an equipment manager, as in compliance or academics or business office. I mean, go on and on and on. And the problem is students don't know what's out there until you go. And as they get up to my level in the junior and senior in the grad program, well, then they already, hopefully by their freshman sophomore year, they already have that plan already established based on what they want to do, what experience they've already been created. And now it's just a matter of gaining that time into a full-time internship.
Exactly. And like you said, action. Action. That really is, to sum it up what you said.
It's all about
action. Creating action. Creating action.
That's it. And because you can speak all the time, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be a sport agent, I want to be a GM. That's all nice to hear. But let me tell you something. If you're not showing me that action, or not just me, or the people that are going to make those decisions to want to bring you aboard as a quality control coach, whether it be a scout, whether it be a first full-time job within intercollegiate athletics, whatever your goal is, if you're not showing me you're gaining the knowledge base and the work ethic and the networks that you're going to be able to create through those internships that are going to go to bat for Charles Stewart, then it's going to be very difficult for you to continue that plan of where you want to ultimately end your career.
Exactly. So, in piggybacking off of what you just said, what do you think separates someone from having success and not having success in a sports career?
Well, the biggest thing I've noticed, and there's a common theme to that point, Charles, is this, is grit and hustle and determination and persistence. You can't you're going to have more no's in this profession than you are yeses.
I agree.
And what you do with those no's is what you're going to be able to get those yeses. Don't ever take no for an answer, in the sense that, you know what, okay, how could I have gotten better? Let me talk to that employer. What could I have done differently? Or maybe they had a better candidate, so be it. But let me continue to grind it. Yeah, well, Dr. Pappas, I need to pay the bills. Hey, I get that. Well, then show me you want it. Get a part-time job at Publix. Get a part-time job here. Put those hours in. Show me that grit. Show me that hustle. Show me that you truly want to be here, because that ultimately is what separates the successful students that are in this industry from ones that are not in this industry.
And I'm so glad you said that, because I think people underestimate the fact that you working your way up in sports, you don't get paid, honestly. I was fortunate enough that with your connections, I was able to have experiences in sports where I did get compensated. But for the most part, prior to meeting you, I had multiple years of working for free in sports, working over 40 plus hours, you know, for free, and then working on the weekends just to supplement. So I worked 7 days a week, 5 days for free, and then 2 days paid, just to pursue my dream, just to continue my dream. And I think it's very important, and I'm so glad you said that, is that in sports, they talk about the players not getting paid. Imagine the students like us that work the sporting events, that set it up, we get negative dollars.
well, and that's it, you know, Charles, and that's why I think it's a huge reality check for some of our students that think about going into sport. And I try to lay it right on the line to them, because I think if they don't, then they're going to have a tremendous misconception of what it's going to take. And I think ultimately you got to remember, you're going to be working in an industry that you're going to love to get up for every morning, to be able to be a part of a team, to be something that you can say you've made a difference in an industry or an organization or a team. So with that being said, you've got to have that understanding. You've got to be able to do it, because you only have, again, I'm going back to that short window, because when you're my age, when you have children, when you have bills and responsibilities, for me to do a free full-time internship, I just can't, because I have responsibilities I got to take. So that's why I tell our students, look, you've got to look long-term, not short-term. Grind it now. You're young. You got the energy. Just get the knowledge base. Suck it. You know, I'm not saying to promote working 50, 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks. I kind of am if you really want it.
Exactly.
Because the more knowledge you have, with the ability to not worry about funds or money, the better you're going to be when those jobs are applied. Because it's how you can become an asset. And the only way to do that is to be able to go that extra mile. Get on YouTube. Learn how to use Python analytics and Tableau. Learn how to do analytic design measures. Understand how to do a marketing strategy on your own. But then apply it to within a real practical situation, whether it be at your institution for athletics, at the junior college, at the high school, wherever that might be. But it's going to give you that ability to showcase your skill set at the highest level, where you'll be able to get those opportunities.
Exactly. And I think it's just so underrated, you know, to your point of just how much grinding, how much effort it takes and mental fortitude it takes, to have a career in sports. And to your point of looking short and long term, and the fact that, like you said, you are suggesting working 50, 60, 70 hours to start.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it ends that way.
Nope.
And sometimes it's just a precursor to, it stays that way, depending on what you're trying to do in sports.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like you said, in order for you to know, even if it would to make sense, it makes sense to go head in 100 miles an hour for 30 hours.
That's it.
And then after a couple months or after a year, then you can assess if this is for me or if this isn't for me.
100%. And I think at the end of the day, I never thought in a million years I'd be in academia, to be able to be in the classroom, to be able to use my experience within the industry to students to help them guide their path. And I will say this, for life, work balance is the best it's ever been for me in terms of being able to be a part of my family, to be able to be in an industry that I love so much. And you do. And I think as you grow into your career, you're going to have the option and the ability, because of what you did early on, to be able to have those decisions, to have that work-life balance. And at the end of the day, it's something that you've got to realize. The more experience you have, the more expertise you have, the more opportunities you're going to have to be able to hire the right people, to be your own boss, to be your own leader, to be able to make that impact. So ultimately, it's having the ability to have that plan, as you mentioned earlier, and maintain that. Because it may change a little bit over time, but the more you stay on that plan, the more options you're going to have to be able to choose the kind of lifestyle you want within your career and your personal life.
Great. I appreciate those words, because that is so important for people to hear that want to either pursue sports or pursue professional life sports, where it's a grind, it's a commitment, and there's a big payoff eventually, and there's a lot of perks associated with it.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to switch the pace a little bit, and I want to ask you a question in terms of, as we're speaking in pre-production about my resume situation, right?
Yeah.
And I want you to give some advice to students in my situation. So, for instance, I put the grind in.
Yep.
I put the hard work in. I did the hours. I set my resume up with specific, intentional experiences that I thought would separate me from the pack. And then when I went to interview with a major, sports entity, they told me in the interview that essentially I would be bored, and I was already good enough to do their job, and I was essentially overqualified. And that's something that, honestly, being a minority, you have to work harder and you have to separate yourself more. So it's always been not qualified or underqualified. So then the fast forward, I'm really trying to enter in my sports career, my profession. I find an opportunity that aligns with what I'm trying to do. And they tell me that I'm overqualified. And I didn't know how to respond. I didn't even know how to even answer that question. So I want to ask your opinion on, if you were in my situation at that moment, hindsight being 2020, what you would say, or what advice you would offer to someone in that situation?
Well, certainly, I guess you could view that as somewhat of a compliment, but you don't want the compliment, you want the job, right?
Exactly.
So I would simply state, are you looking for the most qualified person for this position, or you're looking for someone that you think is a better fit? And if that's the case, I would want you to be honest with me, to say, hey, look, what was the real reason that you didn't want me? And you do it in a way that's professional, because you want to grow from, like I mentioned before, you're going to get a lot more no's than you are yeses.
Exactly.
And what you want to figure out is how you can get better. And I think at that point in time, it's simply this, is that if you think I'm so overqualified, well, then what type of person are you looking for this position? The most qualified person? And if not, what truly is something that I could have done differently or better to be able to make myself the right person for this job?
And I think it's to your point, and I wanted to share that experience, because sometimes there is no right answer, and sometimes, like you said, you just have to take it as with a grain of salt, and still be persistent and still be consistent on staying focused on what's your goal,
That's right.
What's your why, and why are you doing it, and realizing that just because the opportunity closed doesn't mean all the opportunities closed.
Absolutely.
That's just that opportunity. And what are you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, because that opportunity closed, doesn't mean that another opportunity, because they're going to remember you as being overqualified.
Exactly.
You're a minority, which, granted, that could be a good thing, and it could be somewhat not a good thing, because at the end of the day, what is that organization looking for, right? And in sport, I think for me, it's more impressive to have diversity and inclusion within an organization to match the representation of the groups and the organization of it. Because if not, then I think you have a balance. And I think at the end of the day, whatever that company is, I look at it like this. Simple this, and keep it in mind, is that maybe that's not a company you want to work for. You know, if they're saying you're overqualified, what does that truly mean? Are they being honest? Are they really truly assessing your abilities? Or are they just telling you what you want to hear so they don't offend you? And at the end of the day, if they're not going to be honest with you, well, maybe that's not an organization you may not want to work for.
Exactly, and I'm glad you said that last statement, because I think that goes to what we can do, you know, as someone who is in my position, is do a better job of scouting out the companies that we want to work for and doing our due diligence and making sure that it's the culture, it's the environment, it's the reading the reviews of the organization and seeing if that is an organization that we should be a part of, or realizing that, you know, in our situation, if you're quote unquote overqualified, maybe that's a sign to start your own business.
Absolutely.
You know, start your own LLC and figure out, since I have so much skills in this area and I can provide so much value, how do I turn that value into equity?
Well, and that's a great point, and we talked about this in my class, professional development. The first and foremost thing you want to do when you're looking for any position is do your research. Research. Understand the culture of the organization. Understand the people you'll be working for. Understand some of the responsibilities that you will be acquiring if you were given that position. And then with that research will hopefully help identify if this is truly a job you really want. Now, the other point of it is this. If you're saying that, look, if I'm overqualified and I've got all these skill sets and I've got all this experience, well, at the end of the day, I want to work in sport. I'm in a tough situation here in 2020 with COVID. What can I do to produce that revenue? And I think your point was well taken. Entrepreneur is where it's at. And what you said of open up your own LLC, to be able to open up your own agency or a management company, or a creative idea that could relate to delivery of sport, is a great way to do it, because there's no better time now to open up your own business or opportunity than now, because you can work from home, right? You can mute, you got Zoom, we all have that down. You don't have to travel nearly as much. So if anything, to cash that experience in and your education into something that's going to produce revenue, but more than anything, stay in a profession you love so you can pay the bills.
Exactly. And then I think I want to end off with the final question of, if I gave you some truth serum, right?
Yep.
And I said, I want you to answer this question. How do you realistically make 6 to 7 figures in the sports profession? What does that look like, and how do I get there?
Well,
remember, I gave you truth serum.
Yeah, here's the deal. You're not going to make $100,000 in this profession, period. And if you do, good blessing for you, because again, and I'm going to say this to you, Charles, more than anything, you shouldn't go into a field that you have a passion for if you're driven by money, if you're driven by titles, because those things will come. If you truly love what you do, you love being in an environment that people are going to notice it, and they're going to compensate you, and they're going to reward you, whether it's a car, whether it's a title, whether it's $100,000. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be marketable, that people want you on your team because you have those skill sets, that you're going to be an asset. If you want to make $100,000 in the sport industry, then you better find out how you can be an asset to that particular organization. How do you separate yourself? What type of work? What are you doing differently that I should pay Charles Stewart $100,000 or more for someone that I can pay for $50,000 because they're just happy to be there, right? And that's where you got to understand that this is a competitive industry. But more than anything, if you're driven by money, if you're driven by titles, please, and I tell everybody out there, do not go into this industry, because it's more of not just a career, it's a lifestyle. And there's a lot of sacrifice you're going to have to do, whether it's working late hours, whether it's working nights, whether it's working during the holidays. But the fact of the matter is, it's like you've never worked a day in your life. And that's where the true joy comes from. When you know you can make a positive impact in people's lives, and that you're saying to yourself that you can go to bed at night knowing that you love what you do. To me, there's not a price in dollars and cents that can offer that $100,000.
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because it touches upon what we started by saying, is that, you know, this is a rough and rugged industry. And also, I'm glad you shed some light on the fact that most people in sports, 99% of people work in sports, don't make 6 figures. You know, what you get 6 figures worth of perks.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you get. You don't get the tangible money, but you get the perks and the experiences and the memories that are worth 6 figures.
Well, that's 100% right. Our students here, they don't get paid a dime, but they get the opportunity to put this on their resume. They get to go to the national championship game. They get the opportunity to get some gear. They get the opportunity to network and meet with great people. But more than anything else, you do get those perks. And yeah, is that something that you should enjoy? Yeah. But I think that's just the bonus. People said to me, I've been to 20 national title games, multiple Super Bowls, I've been to every sporting event you can think of, and that's great. But you know, one of the great things that I love more than anything, that's definitely a perk, is to have people like my former students, like Charles Stewart here, interviewing me about some of the things that are going to make students successful in industry. To me, today is what brings me the joy. And so this is my Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This is my national championship.
Yeah.
To be able to see a student like yourself understanding this industry, making the most of it, and you want to give back to others that are looking to get back, are looking to get in this industry. So thank you, Charles, for my Super Bowl.
I appreciate those kind words. And then, you know what? One question since before I let you go, and yeah, the camera's still not dead yet, so we got a little bit of time.
Sure.
How do you know what your passion is?
That's easy.
Or how do you know this is my passion?
Well, I'm very spiritual. You know, it's like the moment when I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I knew right in my heart that's what it was. I knew with God in my heart, I could do all things through Him, right? Well, just like in your passion, when you find that, it hits your heart. You're like, I could see myself. You just know. It's like when you meet your wife, right? When you meet that relationship or whoever that is, you just know. And it's whether it's a satisfaction you get from it, or it's the joy you get, or it's the skills that you have that match that job. Whatever the case is, you just know it's in your heart. And I think for me, when I knew that this is an area where I wanted to work, you just know. I mean, people have desire to want to work in events because they can look back and say, you know, this is a small part I can make, or they can look at the ability to work in compliance, that they were able to help, you know, a student athlete become eligible, or you got opportunity to work in marketing, increase revenue, whatever that is, whatever that joy and passion, you know. And that's why the more internships you do, the more experience you have, the more ability that you're going to find out what your passion is for things.
Awesome. And I think we'll leave on those excellent words. Like I said, this is the Credentials with your host, Charles Stewart. We have the illustrious, the legendary Dr. Jason Pappas, the proud CEO of Florida State's sports management program, the #1 program in the nation for your masters. And see you next time.
And let me say this. He says those kind things, but let me tell you, Dr. James, Dr. Newman, Dr. Kim, Dr. Han, Dr. Flanagan, Dr. Dew, you know, we have Mr. Ho, Tony Daniels, our entire department, Dr. Rodenberg, you know, Dr. Jardina. We have the best faculty in the nation because of that in our curriculum and what we do for our students. It's not me, and it's never has been. It's about our students and about our overall department. And I enjoy being at Florida State. I enjoy working with students. But go Noles, and we'll hope to see you here back at Florida State University.
Go Noles. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Good.